6:01 on Tuesday, January the 21st. Welcome to the Town of Richmond meeting of Water and Sewer Commission. Public comment? Anybody? No. Additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Okay, moving right along. First up, we have no purchase orders, so warrant report. There's warrant report number 22506 for $19,884.43. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the warrant as presented?
This is Bart, so moved.
This is Jay, second.
All right, any discussion? So there's no discussion. Calling for a vote on the warrant report. May I have your vote, please?
This is Bart, aye.
Jay, aye.
Aaron, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Okay. Approval of the minutes from January the 6th, 2025. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Bart, so moved.
This is Jay, second.
Second, any discussion, any corrections from the minutes? I didn't see any either. So calling for a vote to approve the minutes from January the 6th. May I have your vote, Aaron?
Aaron, I.
Bart, aye.
Jay, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Okay. Moving right along. First up, update on staff changes. Steve?
Yeah, Robert, had decided that, apparently, didn't work out.
Understood.
And we reposted the job, so I think you were gonna go back to.
Yeah, I didn't have it yet, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna go back through the rest of the resumes. Robert was the top of them, but I'll pick through and see if anybody else is still looking, or interested.
Right, okay.
Lightly apropos of that. Has Brad passed his test yet?
No,
Okay.
he got the exact same as he did the last time.
Oh,
He says he's looking to reschedule for February. He told me.
I told it, well, Nate had a talk with him and I've had a talk with him. We think that, he currently is relying on Paula for studying. And I think Paula may be not what Brad needs.
Okay.
He might need a next step.
Okay.
So, I've talked to rural water and, Nate was gonna look into somebody maybe that could help Brad a little more. Brad has finished his apprenticeship program.
Mhm.
He finished the last 2 exams for his Sacramento test and passed those. And so he will be, going out of the apprenticeship program.
Right.
It's just that one step to get him to the.
Sure.
So he's gonna assess how much time he needs to study and see if he wants to do it. Cause when he called me this morning, I was like, if you're ready to go again that quick,
Well,
take your time if you need to.
you know, Nate said that when he did his, he religiously studied, like a half hour, 45 minutes every day for a year
Oh, wow.
before he took it.
But if and when he passes it, and I have confidence that he'll pass it, that technically means that we would have enough certifications that we don't need the outside
Correct.
engineer.
that's for sewer.
For water, we don't need anybody.
Right. He's got, okay, we just don't need it because I thought he's also certified for water.
Brad is certified. for
Yeah,
water.
I'm certified, Brad's certified. Brad's certified for, we're both certified for grade 3 water.
Right.
And Brad is also certified for distribution for water,
Okay.
which the state may be asking currently right now, you're only required to get a distribution license if you are just distributing water from like Champlain Water District. But they may require every municipal water system to have a distribution license.
Interesting.
That. That's what I understand they're talking about.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
so we're pretty well covered.
yeah.
It's
good.
just the wastewater,
Wastewater part, yeah, okay.
which is a lot harder.
Oh, that, yeah, a lot more chemistry.
Yeah.
Or
Well, there's a lot
biology,
more everything.
everything, yeah. Okay. Okay, moving right along. Consideration of approval of step one engineering service agreement for flood mitigation for the force main and pump station across the bridge.
So this is basically the giving Holt Tanner the ability to pursue either relocating the pump station and relocating the force main under the bridge that we've had issues with.
Mm,
And this one should be 100% subsidy through CWSRF.
That's the design part of it.
That's the step one design.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
this is sort of the preliminary design. As we get into final design and construction, there'll probably be subsidy, but likely not 100%.
So go along with that. Right now, Dan Pratt, we're scheduled to raise the pedestal with all the controls on it. We had talked about that and you guys had asked me to go along. It's like
Yep.
$5,800 to do that. It was gonna try to schedule it this week. Obviously, nobody really wants to work out in the cold. So, but we're right there, ready to start on that project as soon as we get some weather that's decent.
And on that project, we've discussed with FEMA putting that in as a mitigation project, and most likely we'll be getting funding for that. So that'll cover probably 75% of the cost of the project.
That's the raising it.
That's the raising of the control
Right,
panel.
right, right.
Yeah.
Do we know the height of the current panel?
So the current panel, we're roughly, the current panel sits, like 3 feet up to the bottom of it. And basically, what I'd asked for was if we make the top the bottom, which is another 3 feet. So roughly, we're gonna be about 3 to 4 feet higher or about 6 feet off the ground. And currently, the highest of the 3 floods only got up about 6 inches on the dam.
So we're going 2.5 feet higher than what it was then.
Huh?
We'll be 2.5 feet
Yeah,
above.
that's kind of what I wanted.
Right.
Well.
This
I mean,
month anyway.
I don't know how high it got during Irene, because I wasn't here, but Dan, we both discussed it and Dan is like, that seems to be plenty high, you know, in relationship.
For now.
Well, I hope that we don't find out the hard way that.
Yeah, well, if we do,
But
I'm gonna be angry.
If it gets that high, it's gonna be
Yeah.
all in the wastewater treatment facility too. We're gonna.
Well, if it gets that high, the wastewater facility
Oh,
will
boy.
definitely be underwater.
oh boy,
And it would be, you know, Mrs. Polly's house would have.
And we'd see somebody leading animals onto a boat 2x2.
Likely.
yeah,
I mean. It would be close to the bottom of the bridge
Yeah,
at that height.
well, we have problems enough without inventing more at this time, so.
yeah. Well, that sounds a smart move, but we do that and then after the design, we may hear from them possibly moving everything.
Well,
higher
yeah,
down.
so it's sort of 2 separate projects. The project Steve's talking about is a good project, but a lot less expensive.
Mhm.
The project these guys are looking at is more floodproofing the control
Yeah.
panel, the underground pumps, and the force main that goes across the bridge. So that's gonna be potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Did I see a possible $2.5 million number?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
possible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's pretty.
It's a big number.
Can be expensive. I mean, and at that point, there's some other funding we can look at. There's some mitigation money that's not directly tied to disasters that might be able to free up some money to help us with that. When it's tied to disasters, it can only be as much as the damage was. So that's why this works, because the damage was about, 5,000 or more, but it wasn't millions. But there's other pots of money that the state gets after every disaster that they can then distribute for other flood preparedness projects. And those don't really have the same limitations, so we might be able to get that.
The whole Tanner engineering part is long version. I'm looking at 3 floods in 2 years. What can we do to stop the problem in the short term?
Looking at the morning
Without
coffee
spending
version.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah. No, I understand.
So that seems prudent, you're right, it's a low hanging sort
Yeah.
of cost, you know, at that price point, and it seems prudent. It's like, and even if there is a higher flood or.
Yeah.
You know, it still seems like a good idea given the price point.
Mhm.
I'm thoughtful about the big price point though, and I'm informed a little bit by. I think we're 0 for 4 now. With the voters' enthusiasm for various things, the sidewalk,
The
The-
Four Corner intersection.
the intersection, this building, there seems not a lot of appetite for significant expenses. And I think when we get to that point, I absolutely think we need to get to a point so we know what it is and what it costs. But I think we should be prepared for a conversation where there may be people who say, I'd just rather be without water for a week or two
Well,
than spend a couple million.
it's not the water that's.
It's the sewer.
It's the sewer end.
I think there are people who
Yeah.
are gonna take that position, like, hey, you know, so what if we don't do it? What happens?
I think we
We have
could
big
be,
tanker trucks distributing water in the parking lot.
well, not only that, I mean, would we have to deal with hazardous spill,
If-
right? That could be,
If the line breaks under the bridge, we
Yep.
got a lot of other problems too.
yeah,
So
But you're right, going in eyes wide open.
I think we need to be prepared for people's opinions, which will describe a range of opinions.
right,
And that's why the doing something now,
right,
I feel better than not doing anything and just saying,
yeah.
we're waiting for the big money to fix it all.
Well, I think
On
what
the
you're,
other hand, this is our customers, not the entire town.
right, but also what you're doing now is between now and by the time we get around to doing whatever Hoyt Tanner says, we could potentially have a flood, so.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like, I mean, I don't wanna say likely, but I mean, this is a couple of years out, I'd say, this
Yeah.
project, between design, funding and.
Moving that pipe
Construction.
down,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
big project, and I mean, that's the other thing is hopefully there's some funding from the state as the state gets more money to help flood mitigation out. So we don't have to foot the whole bill on this, but that is a decision down the road that remains to be seen.
I will only add, I mean, I'm perhaps skewed by the perspective of Medicaid and human services and what the new administration means for that.
Fair point.
And in the listservs that are for those professionals and organizations, it is in effect, all bets are off. Like Medicaid is on the table, the things that people have gotten used to for 30 or 40 years may not be the same next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm only cautious about
Oh.
what a future federal administration means in terms of other kinds of funding
Yeah.
to the state and then to us. And then what the pressures on the state will be, given some of the other impacts, not just in water, sewer, but other things where difficult choices might have.
Educational funding is gonna be a huge one.
I wonder too, our senators and representative had. You know, there's like $2.5 million towards our upgrades of this facility. I wonder if that's affected in any way.
Well, that is
Okay, fine.
particularly to the dewatering plant because we take septic.
Right, but I'm wondering now, as Bard mentioned,
That's not finalized yet, right?
No, it
We
still
were-
isn't
We
finalized.
were on the short list, we thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
We
haven't
haven't-
heard an official final word
Right.
from Congress on that. Well, you're right, I'll have to say.
I think it was Yogi Berra that said it ain't over till it's over.
something like that. Being politically
As he
correct
also
here.
said, I didn't say half the things I said.
Okay,
Oh, gosh, the Hall of Fame results were announced at 6 p.m.
Oh.
Much more important.
I haven't even thought
we can,
who might be in.
maybe we can get that in right before we adjourn. Okay, thank you. Oh, do we need a motion on that though, don't we?
Yeah, motion, would you guys know I can sign the paperwork and get it going?
Yeah,
I do not have my memo. in
I do, I will. Well, contact them. Here you go.
The top there.
Ms. Bart, I move to approve the step one engineering service agreement for flood mitigation for the forest main and pump station, and to appoint town manager Josh Arneson as the duly authorized representative.
Have a second? Aaron, would you like to second?
Sure.
Okay, thank
This is
you.
Aaron.
All
I
right.
second the movement.
I
Uh,
didn't want to hog all the second.
I know, we're spreading the love. Any further discussion on this? There is no further discussion. Calling for a vote on the motion to approve the phase one agreement.
Aaron, I.
Bart, aye.
J.I.
Morgan, I. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next up. Review of water tank inspection report.
I've got a summary from our meeting. If that works.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so the report is included in the packet. I think the engineer did a very thorough job of going through the tank and providing a really great report. As you mentioned, we've been in discussion with VLCT Passive to see if there's any insurance coverage on any damages or any repairs that might be necessary. We also had our attorneys involved in a few meetings. So we met with both of those entities as well as the engineer today to kind of hear him talk about, give the summary of the report and talk about potential next steps. So, and also Todd Henninger, the engineer, he can be present at the February 3rd meeting. Steve and I can go into as much detail as we can go into, but Todd is extremely well spoken and research on the topic, and I think be a really good addition to the meeting on February 3rd. But in summary, he says there's some cracking, but all the cracks are very small in width. So they might be long, but the width is fairly small and sort of they're along the same size and amount of cracks that you might expect in a tank that's made out of concrete. He says other similar tanks have similar issues and similar cracking. He does not see any concrete that's in distress or deterioration, and he doesn't have any concerns about the structure of the tank. So he doesn't feel like it's going to have a major failure of any sort. We did ask him about epoxy. I know that's come up numerous times. He said that on a construction project with concrete, you really only use epoxy when you're near de-icing things. So like if you're building a bridge or a walkway and there's lots of salt and de-icer, corrosion. He says typically in a water tank, you won't put in epoxy on the rebar. So I think we're okay there. He did stress that, there are certain things, I think there's about 6 recommendations, he said, of steps we can take. And he said that those are really just good maintenance and things you should be doing. He came back to the roof quite a bit, saying that a membrane, like sealing the cracks, putting a membrane on top of the roof would be a really good step, and the insulation as well. He noted that both of those were things that could have been done when we started the project, but we opted not to at that time. He also noted that one thing that we didn't have is typically when they're pouring concrete, there's a third party that will do testing, and they'll get a sample of the concrete. They'll do a strength test on it to see if it lives up to the same number of PSIs that is in the design. We didn't have the results of those tests. He said it was included in the contract. So likely the engineer would have gotten those results during the project. If they were short of where they should be, would have raised alarm bells and said, stop, we got to redo this. But we're going to try to do some follow-up with Chris Childs, who is one of the engineers involved, and maybe a few others to see if we can locate any tests that might have been done. He said that would give us an idea of, is it the right strength? If we still wanted to pursue it, we couldn't find those tests. He said you can do a test now. It involves taking a core sample, basically, filling that back in, and then testing the core sample. So he says it's probably $5,000 to $10,000 to conduct the test now. So we'll do what we can. One thing that he mentioned that I thought was a real good analogy, and then I'll turn it over to Steve if I missed anything. He said one point he was thinking about this, I think years ago, about design of water tanks, and he goes, you could kind of look at a graph. You can make one that is 100% watertight, never cracks, never has any problems. He goes, but in order to get there, the cost just exponentially increases. You're talking more rebar, you're talking different types of methods and procedures. He says, so you sort of have to look at that and say, well, where are we comfortable? And that's what most projects do, like they get to a point that's like, yep, we know there's gonna be some crack and there's no, there's gonna be some, but yeah, some, what's it, sort of an E, not effluent that comes through, effervescent that comes through. And he says, you sort of live with that. If you tried to build it airtight, essentially, you'd be talking it cost prohibitive project.
10 times as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I mean, he seemed to indicate that the most concern were the cracks on the roof. And part of that is because the roof is more susceptible because it's a large area and it is out exposed to the heat in the summer and the cold in the winter. So the constant contracting and expansion will cause those cracks over time to, plus water setting right on them from the outside. And that's where he described the membrane. Would maybe if we in the next couple of years put the membrane on, that could expand the life of the tank considerably. The other thing is the exposed front. Maybe that should be insulated because, with the top and the exposed front, it's a large area of contraction. Normally, the tank is completely covered on all sides, most tanks that you see. And it's really only the roof that is exposed to it.
On the subject of the front, his bullet point R4 was interesting. That's the one about how frankly crappy that tank looks and how members of the public who don't attend all these meetings might go by and think that thing's on the verge of failing.
Yeah.
And how we might painting it the same color as the efflorescence or putting up a vegetative screen. It's an interesting point. I mean, I don't know how much it would cost to do all that.
Well, that's where my question, and I didn't have it until after we'd gone off, was, well, if you're gonna insulate the front, it's gonna cover all that.
Right.
So essentially it won't show, but I don't know. I mean, I'd have to ask him, how the insulation's attached and those things.
That and the complexity of fixing the cracks inside, since we cannot completely drain the tank.
Yeah.
We can't completely drain the tank because who knew we need the pressure? But going in underwater and fixing cracks does not sound like a trivial undertaking.
It didn't sound like it's good to put epoxy in cracks anyway. So,
From the inside.
yeah.
Do we have any sense of liability or somebody else help us with this in terms of either design or construction? There's no smoking gun from what I understand.
Yeah,
I got that it was designed fine.
Reasonably.
I mean, he said that he is, I think 3 other tanks of the same design. I think maybe those other tanks aren't exposed only on the roof, but
no, there were photos of the size of those tanks in the report too, I think.
was there?
I think so.
Oh. But I mean, he seemed to think, I got the indication that if he designed the tank like that, he would tell the town, best practice is you put the rubber membrane on when you do it. Or you put a rubber membrane inside. Both those things are very expensive. And he wouldn't require them, but he would give you the option. And I mean, I don't know if that option was presented when it was designed but.
Yeah, and as far as we sort of asked that question of like, is there a smoking gun? Is there something that was done wrong? And the only thing he really kind of came back to was the strength test of the concrete. And again, if that was tested during the process like it's supposed to be, and the engineer saw that,
And he did say
they would have.
he has never dealt with a concrete company that would find those strength tests.
Right, so we'll have to do some calling to see if we can find the tests.
They're not required to keep them.
Why would they?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and really, but if they were taking them and the engineer reviewed them, the engineer is gonna say, stop this project. I'm not putting my stamp on that because you're not following my design. So we'll follow up with it, but I think the likelihood is that there's probably no smoking gun, no coverage. VLCT did say that their coverage doesn't cover workmanship. It would cover like if there was something like an act of God, like something that damaged it, or if there was a sifting soil underneath that caused this, there might be some coverage for that. But they said they didn't feel right now, based on the information they have, there'd be any coverage.
And one other point I'll make, and this is just from memory, that when we first bid this, it was a 2-cell tank. There was a partition in the middle, so you could drain one side and work on the other, kind of like the.
Oops.
And the bids came back so much more expensive than anticipated that was dispensed with by a vote of the Water Sewer Commission at the time. With some full knowledge, like that's gonna handcuff a little bit, you know, because it's better to have like 2 separate systems where you can open,
Yeah.
like close. But we don't have that. So just another example, I think there was a lot of concern at the time from customers about why do we have to do this? Why is it so big? Why is it be so expensive? You know, there was a lot of concern from customers, and that was part of the tipping point, that and a lot of deferred maintenance to go from fairly low rates to fairly high rates. A whole bunch of things hitting once, including.
I will say, I am glad that the tank is the size that it is.
Yeah, the
Um,
floods.
well, when it floods, we now have a way of not having to go on boil water. You know, if it was smaller, there would be the problem of having to go on boiled water because we wouldn't be able to shut down like we do.
I will add, the fire chief at the time was very clear and articulate, you need a bigger tank in case of a fire.
Yeah.
Was
And
that Chief Levac?
yes.
Yeah.
And so some of those folks had memories or at least oral histories of fires in town that were really substantial and could not be fought effectively because there wasn't enough water.
Mhm.
I also note what went on in LA. You run out of water, it's pretty tough to fight a fire.
Well, some of the, I mean, you're hearing stories out there, the reservoir was drained. It needed a new liner because it couldn't hold water. And there was a whole section of those hydrants that did not work. And those people, fire coverage was, insurance was dropped. Like a
Because of
week
the-
or two before the
Yeah.
fires. Because the hydrants weren't working.
Yeah.
Yeah, State Farm withdrew their commercial from the Super Bowl because the optics were so bad,
Yeah.
having yanked all those policies.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
Yeah, that's, yes, I think the rubber membrane should just be the first thing to look at.
Well,
And I'm thinking of just from,
let's talk with the engineer next meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he can answer a lot more
Okay.
questions for us.
but I think just, I'm thinking of it as a building and flat roofs. And I'm pretty sure he'll say, make it white,
Yeah.
not black.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but
So, but that will, and if it's a good membrane installed correctly, you should easily get 30 years out of that.
I would hope.
You know, you'll get,
Don't they often for this kind of flat roofing, put membranes and then gravel on top?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it,
Yeah.
right? But a
But
lot
I've
of,
seen them nowadays not do the gravel so
Right.
much.
well, the gravel actually is when you have negative pressure. So it's to add weight to that, so that doesn't lift up.
Hmm.
But
Well,
you'll-
also it dissipates the heat a bit if you have light gravel. the
right,
Flat surface absorbing
right.
radiation.
We might want it to absorb radiation though, because part of the concern is keeping it warm in
In the winter.
the winter, because the cold contracts it, so, but yeah, let's talk to the
Can we
engineer.
just build some solar panels over it?
Yeah,
Hey,
think
Jeff
that'd be a
Ford
good
just-
place
just
for it.
hooked up. He's
Yeah.
like, oh. that's all
Better
right.
do it
It's
quick,
not
better do it
just an
quick.
idea.
though.
I mean,
Yeah.
No,
It could be.
I mean, I think the membrane to stop the crack, the water from getting into the cracks and,
Solar panels on top to,
well,
Hook it up.
who knows?
I like it. I think it's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion, questions, comments?
So he'll be here next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either, you guys have a preference if he zooms in or is in person?
I think he said he wanted to come.
Wow.
You can do either.
He is really well spoken
Yeah, he's great.
and lays it out in terms you can understand really well.
Alright.
Nice. That kind of guy. Great. All right, thank you. Next up. That water tank update on installation of water meters.
It's going really well. Even with the cold, we installed 5 meters today. We're over 200 and I believe it was 212 right now. So we're headed down.
Got another 100 to go then.
About 115 to go.
Yeah, wow,
And,
good.
and we're biting them off every chance we get.
When do we turn on monitoring and access to?
I gotta talk to, I haven't been able to get a hold of, Noah to come in and talk about that again. But I think we're close enough to do it now. But I don't know if it also has to coincide when Connie starts using it too. So,
I talked to her about that this morning, about making sure that for the next quarter, we're really utilizing it.
well, I mean, essentially we should be,
Yeah.
I mean, with 212 meters
They are
now.
hooked up at the beginning of the quarter. We
Yeah.
have a number of them that are gonna be Zener from the start to the end of the next
Yeah,
quarter.
there's,
So
well, there's over 100 and there'll be 180 that are definitely, we have about 105 from the first quarter.
Right,
Those have been online and now we've added about 70 this quarter
but it's like,
and we're already up
yeah,
almost
So
to 30.
I told her to ask her to get in touch with Zener and Nemrick to make
Yep.
sure that they connected, the
Yep.
system works well.
And
for her, because there's
I
no
can
sense to be
email her.
manually entering 150 that,
You shouldn't
Or
have
automatic,
to.
yeah. so I think we'll get that done and then maybe that, talk
Yeah.
to Noah about getting.
Yeah.
Do they,
Interface up.
will they create some sort of software patch to work with our software?
Yeah, no, I think that the concern was, so the first quarter, we were sort of mixed, where we had every single meter started with the old meter, and then some meters were changed in the middle. So every single thing had to be a manual entry because you couldn't just automatically upload. Last quarter, there was, like you said, I think about 75 or something. It started the quarter with Zener and ended the quarter with Zener, so those probably could have been uploaded automatically. But I think Connie didn't have the full information, she just wanted to get them done. So I said, okay, for next quarter, let's make sure that we upload things automatically. That's the whole goal. It's gonna be an interface where it just uploads. I
Right.
think the challenge is when not 100% of them are
Right.
Zener, but there is a way to do it, and Connie's gonna get that done, and by next quarter, we should be fine for the data entry.
Because
And then hopefully the
it
customer as
takes,
well. Takes a lot of.
we don't even have to go out and read them.
Well, yeah,
We don't have to read them. We don't have to spend the time compiling it. I mean, we still will download our numbers so we know what they are and be able to look at them, but that literally takes about 10 seconds.
Mm.
And print them off or download them and put them in a file and we've got them. It literally, I mean, the number of billing problems that we've been running into this time.
it'd be nice to get away from that.
And corrections that need to be made. We need to get away from that. And I mean, I have had probably 10 to 15 disgruntled bills that I've had to go through and deal with.
To
Some of
correct up when you changed over.
No, some of them aren't even that. Some of them were just you know, the billing was wrong or didn't get carried through.
There's too much manual entry.
Yeah.
Is basically
There's
what it
way
boils
too
down
much
to.
manual
I
entry.
think in the old system, like, it was mostly okay, because everybody knew what they were, like, it was routine. The last 2 quarters have been a bit challenging because we've been trying to go from old to new in the middle of a quarter, and there's this, so we need to get away from that manual entry as
Yeah.
much as we can.
No,
Something's getting mistranscribed. and-
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, like, yeah, so I think the more we can automate, which is the goal of this program, the better off we're gonna be, and I see that coming for next quarter.
Yeah.
Mm,
listen,
yeah. That's good news. All right. And just real quick, as far as, and I should be on top of this, as far as if I wanted to read my meter or go see where it is,
flip open the cover and the number's right there.
right there.
Just when you look at it, the very last number of the row of numbers.
Yeah.
Is a decimal point,
Yeah.
so you can drop that number if
Yeah.
you want, but the other, it's straight read.
Right. But if I wanted to go online, I mean,
We don't have that portal set up yet.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
questioning. So, but we're gonna wait until everybody.
I don't,
Don't know.
I think it was more, they wanted to wait until Connie had gotten her
Okay.
and said, so the billing
Right.
was done, and then they'll set up the portals.
Right.
But I do need to call Noah to get a more clear answer for you.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Water Resource Department logo. Dave.
Do you have that?
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
my
I mean, when we
We
share.
talked about changing the logo, and my stepdaughter is a design major down in Texas, and she had a little time on her hands. So she created 3 logos for us, and I said, well, let's look at them and see what you guys think, or if we need to go a different way, or I thought they were pretty good. Josh liked
like-
one.
I like the first, yeah.
I have objections to the first one. They're gonna sound strange. I'm not, it's embarrassing to talk about, but in the
I
world of the
see it,
internet,
Jay.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
I said, I see what you're saying, Jay.
There, if you can see genitalia in a logo, they will.
Okay.
And if you look at that the right way, it looks like female genitalia. Trust me on this, when I say that there will be,
Okay.
So
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 I
it's
would,
it was meant to be a water droplet,
oh, I know what it's meant to be, but
and
Yeah.
that is the top of the round church.
Yeah.
totally. But it's the legs
Yeah.
off.
Okay, yeah, geez.
okay.
I'm only trying, because it's very
No, no.
very
Why
embarrassing.
didn't I see that? I don't
No,
know.
that's a good.
Now I
I've seen, you see those all the time, like failed logos, how did they not catch? And yeah.
So I have 2 comments. First, I totally appreciate that comment. I gravitate towards the first one. So one approach might be to modify this to say,
Yeah.
you're on the right trail here, but avoid what we just described in 2 other comments. On our website, it says Water Resources Department plural. That's
Okay.
singular.
I didn't even catch that.
So it's, I
like-
proofread a lot of stuff. And the other thing I'd say is if we go down this path, which I am like interested in, I would recommend the color of the sky and the water be different.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Either the sky should be lighter
that-
or the
yeah.
water should be darker.
Yep.
But I'd say if you were having me as a graphic designer, you'd be saying, hey, there's the feedback, come back with another one.
Yeah.
Can we do
Yeah,
that?
but otherwise, I like the use of color. I think the
Yeah.
orange in the
Yeah.
middle looks good.
And she mocked it up.
This one
to
was
be
not my favorite.
on a truck.
My favorite is actually
Yeah.
the one with the big R.
That's mine.
So
Really?
there's,
Yeah, not that one, because that's too plain.
The
The
hydrant.
next one
So,
after that.
so if you look at the hydrant, the
It
top
has
of
the round church on
the top of the hydrant is the top of the round church.
You catch
We
that.
tried to incorporate it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
That's,
I mean,
That's
that's
cool.
what we were going for.
Yeah, I like that.
Then the other one,
Let's go to the other one.
Yeah, for what it's worth, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I'm going.
For what it's worth, I just like that one. I don't dislike any of the other 2. This is my favorite.
it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not saying it couldn't use maybe a little bit more color, like maybe an outline, but,
Maybe the water drop could be light blue. There you go.
yes, that's.
Yeah.
More color. I'm stuck. I gravitate towards the Richmond spiders, so I'm stuck there.
Mhm.
The Richmond Spiders.
University of Richmond.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah,
have a great logo.
they're the only
Oh.
team and only college in the country with spiders as their logo.
Taken after the old Cleveland Spiders.
That's almost certainly what they were
Oh.
named after for what it.
Really?
Really?
Richmond, Virginia?
Something after the
They,
Cleveland
at
Spiders.
the time that they
Ohio?
picked their mascot, the spiders were good.
Oh, okay.
This
So
is
maybe-
before the legendary 0 and when they.
Yeah, they were
lose-
terrible one year.
Right, but before that, they were good, and that happens to be when Richmond.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm from Virginia, so I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere.
Oh, that's interesting. I just love that Cleveland Spiders were named the Spiders because they had white uniforms with black legs and it looked like a bunch of spiders running around.
Oh.
When they picked the name of the Guardians, I was really hoping, and there were a
I
lot of
was
people,
hoping they go for the Spiders.
yeah.
Yeah, nobody knew.
Um,
I heard nobody even knows.
I
what
think
the
you would have
Guardian
sold a
is.
lot more
We're getting
slack.
down the, we're getting
But-
down the, I think
So-
Aaron's gonna bring us back to
so-
reality here.
Yeah.
I was gonna, I was,
Aaron,
Talk.
Is the microphone turned up? Because she's coming through very squeaky.
I think
Sorry.
she was just.
my voice.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Wait a minute, actually, is this even connected? I think there's something going on. Good catch.
Hold, please.
Oh, please, Aaron.
Speaker two.
We want all your comments to be heard.
That's,
I mean,
is that
I-
that speaker?
I was literally very impressed with what she did.
Yeah, that's great.
And you
Aaron, you
started
trying
with
to
that. I'm impressed with all three
Yeah.
and the choices because they're all really different.
Aaron, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's only on Josh's computer
Why is it?
while we're doing that.
Well, if you
Yeah,
go
we
to
can
your
hear you
settings,
well
is it,
enough.
what do you have picked as your up device?
Well, that's what I was looking at. It says usually it's speaker two, Realtek audio. But why is that not? It's something.
Is it plugged into the laptop just for grins?
Well, yeah, I was looking at that. That was plugged in. That's-
They'll run circles.
Eric, damn thing was. Aaron, try again.
Can you hear me now?
Very lightly.
Can you turn on
If
the,
everyone's quiet, I can hear you.
Try again, Aaron.
Hello, this is Erin Farr.
We got to fix
We're
that
gonna
for the
issue.
select board. I don't know
Okay.
What's going on?
One, but now it is.
No,
One is supposed to be doing it.
We are dealing with technical difficulties, Aaron.
This left one was,
it's supposed to be audio settings. Microphone,
where's that coming?
I think.
I don't.
it's not-
I just changed the speaker.
Okay, you did. No, wait, that's coming out, no, that's coming out of this now.
Well, that's better than what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we gotta. fix-
you want to hear? Okay, Aaron, we'll do another test. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that was better.
Is that out of the speaker?
There we go.
So you had comments on the logos?
I did. I just was typing them into the chat for you. I'm really impressed with the options. I like the first and the third one the most as well. And if you guys like the third one, I think you could adapt the colors a little to make it more differentiated. I saw the opposite thing wrong. Not wrong. I saw the opposite
On the
thing
first one?
on the first one. And I think if you made the like grass a little smaller and made the roof of the round church bigger, it might lend itself more to the round church. That was what I was thinking when I saw it the other night.
Okay. Thank you.
But I am really impressed, Steve. This is great work by
No,
your.
I thought she did a really great job.
Yeah, and I love how she did the top of the round church, and the hydrant is really like, that's really cool. But I do think that's a little like, if you put that on your fire truck, they're really going to be confused which department is showing up at their house.
Oh, yes. You
Yeah.
talking about confusion.
But I really like the choices.
That was inevitable, wasn't
Okay.
What if we did this? What, is it feasible to ask her to tweak the first and the third? And then take all three to our annual meeting? And ask the customers to do a straw poll?
Yeah, I
That's
think it'd be
what
good.
makes me favor the third one. If you go back to the hat, I think if you think about this on a hat, that one I think looks better on a hat than the first one did because the big R stands out.
Right.
You're not seeing the simple, you're not seeing the complexity of the design from the. I just don't think the complexity of the first one stands out as well on a hat.
It looks more like a Dave Matthews Band logo or something.
Yes, that's kind of the
Which
thought.
one of the reasons I like it.
Yeah, but that, I think when I saw the hat, that's when I decided I liked that one best, just because it works really well on him. But yeah, see what she comes back with, and we may decide after it's all said and done that we like the first one best anyway.
Logos are expensive.
They are.
Yes, I know.
Okay,
We might also discuss like, is there some stipend or something?
Thank you.
We can give her free water and sewer if she ever,
She lives in Texas
Oh,
well, then that's,
Water.
and she's going for 6 months to Germany for a semester abroad.
well, Germany.
Don't ask me.
Oh,
okay, any more discussion on logos? All good. Next up, superintendent's report. You've got about
5 seconds.
7 minutes. How about that?
Lots of things happening. The biggest thing is we got the septic screen PLC installed. There were a couple of things that we needed to tweak. He actually came back today and tweaked them. And it's working great.
Great.
Other than that, we've been taking septage at a very low rate, except this week, for some reason, seems to be extra. We took 30,000 gallons on Monday, 20,000 today. So we're up a little, but we were down around 5,000 a day. It's part of it's the weather and part of it's people don't seem to be pumping septic tanks right now.
Okay,
Unless there's an emergency. But I will say that we're seeing a little uptake in septage because the Milton is not taking septage. The driving force there, I guess, was the town manager. He passed away.
oh, Don Turner.
And the new town manager hasn't required the guys at the plant to take it. And they're kind of, we were not gonna take it.
So they just rather not, huh?
Yeah,
Were they never making much money off it?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. They have a bigger plant than we do.
It's,
It is a pain in the butt sometimes, but for our plant, it works. I was beginning to see a little bit of a downturn in the quality of our biosolids that we're producing off the press by not having enough septage to mix with our stuff. But that came right back today, with the increase in the septage. Right now, the amount of tonnage and money that we've been spending to get rid of the biosolids. We budgeted last year and I kept it the same for the year from the first year because I wasn't really sure. We budgeted $150,000. At the end of the 6 months from July to December, we've only spent 48,000 of it. Part of that is drier solids, bigger loads. And we're not having to, spend as much. I think that's, and that goes back to getting the press fixed.
Mhm.
That being said, I'm putting out right now, we're going to have to rebuild the distribution auger that distributes the solids across the tractor trailer. It is just worn too small. It now is plugging up because it can't. It spins all the time like a screw and pulls it either one way, or when that end gets full, you put it in forward and it pushes it to the front compartments. It doesn't keep up with the amount of material that so I'm having to run the press at a little slower speed, not to overload it. I've called Fournier and they're supposed to be putting a number I assume is gonna be large. But I also talked to Giro's Body Shop in Heinsberg. They make the same, they have a company that makes the same type of augers for Husky, and Giro's reassembles them. And Giro's assembled the one that we did, the incline one for us, and it's been great. So he was gonna look into getting the parts and pieces, how much it was gonna be, so we can look at it, and we'll judge which way we wanna go when we get there. But I don't just step out and, choose the first thing, because that's where you gotta go to buy the part. If I can get it done somewhere else at a much cheaper rate with the same quality, that's what I'm looking at.
Right.
I mean, the clarifier fix, Giro's did it for about $3,500, and the cheapest bid I got was like 10 grand.
Oh,
We just can't just have the Boy Scouts fix it.
No,
Somebody probably needs an Eagle Scout project.
yeah, no, they can stand there and poke the poop out of the holes because it's plugged up.
like they could-
It's literally worn itself down so small that it just doesn't. The other conveyor was changed the year that I started, so 2022. And that is already significantly worn. Again, but the upper conveyor has never been done. That anybody knows of.
And that's also an auger,
It's a screw, yeah.
It's a-
It's basically, there's a screw that takes it away from the press, dumps it into an incline screw. And that incline screw drops it into a distributor screw that fills, there's four openings on it you can open with air cylinders, and it fills the tractor trailer in 4 separate things. It's 33 feet long. It's the longest of all the screws.
well,
The incline one is about 18 and a half feet, and the one that takes it away is only about 6.5 feet.
a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
What are the diameter?
It's only 8 inches.
Okay.
Steve, can you hard face the new one before you put it in or anything, or is that like not something they do? Just out of curiosity, not a suggestion, more of a question, because that does not work on this on the.
I don't think, Giro's haven't mentioned it, and if they didn't
would know.
mention it, I would be inclined to say that it's probably not. With the one they do at Husky it's moving, plastics. Ours is moving poop.
Apparently poop's more abrasive than plastic. Like,
Yeah.
the comparisons you never thought you'd make, but.
Well, they did a phenomenal, we were breaking like about every 6 or 8 weeks, we were having the incline screw break. We ended up pulling the whole screw out, they took it out, they aligned everything up. And then they reattached the end, made it all true. And it was like $600.
Well,
So.
Money
and
well
that's,
spent, huh?
yeah, because it used to make all kinds of noise, because it turns in a pipe.
It was kind of moving.
Yeah,
rattling
and now
around,
you can sit there, you can't even hear it turn, and you put your hand on the pipe and you don't even feel it
but
vibration.
you can't hear it, feel it, it's not wearing out too.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I'm not saying everything I wanna take to them, but I do think they do quality work when they get the chance.
You should get the old one and put it up like a sculpture or something.
Yeah, you could, at this point, it's like a spring, you
Oh.
can bend it into an arch or something.
All right.
But-
Yeah. So,
So, yeah,
well, that's,
that's basically where we are. We're plugging along it. Keeping stuff fixed and we're doing a lot more preventative maintenance now. Just because we're getting to that point where it's not a crisis every 5 minutes.
Right.
We can take a time and go through, check all the gearboxes, check the air filters, do stuff that should be done on a regular basis. And hopefully extend the life of everything.
thank you. All right, good. Good
Okay.
report. Thank you. So, items for our next agenda?
Water tank guy?
Yes, that probably is going to take a good amount of time,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, I think so.
And, will there be any other things with Hoyt Tanner that we'll need to?
Not that I can think of right now.
No, I think we may have a decision on the effluent pump by then. The new effluent pump.
Influence.
Oh, the influent, yeah.
We might have it later by then, okay.
Yeah,
So then if we have that, we'll do influence pump up.
yeah, I would like to, I have their new. They went out and found a different, pump manufacturer, one that is more
I suddenly realized it there.
user friendly.
Good. Hopefully it's for a better
Made in
price.
America, made in Oregon.
Mhm.
And it's actually the same. Manufacturer as the free pump that Phil Laramie gave us,
Okay,
so
Good.
we can talk about that.
And if and when we have updates on staff and.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, staff as well. Good, okay. Calling for a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
All
we
right.
Yeah, we'll get.
didn't get to
Yeah,
that.
we
That's
got
the
that.
best
What-
part.
What was,
The new water alarm system and monitoring systems in, we don't have time. We'll do that next.
all right, next time, good.
We'll do that.
Yeah, put that on the next schedule.
I did that already.
Got a motion to adjourn, second.
I'll second.
Okay,
I
calling,
actually did that.
all right, calling for a vote, Aaron?
Aaron, I.
Okay.
Jay, hi.
Morgan, aye, motion, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everybody.